look at the board for Michigan overall in 22, Clayton, 6 commits. Another headliner would be Alex VanSumer, and Michigan has stayed right in state for him. He's in the Rivals top 250 as well, 10th rated at his position.
Yeah, 10th rated as position. You mentioned in the 250. I think, what is he nationally?
182.
182. He might be a little underrated, even though he's pretty high, especially for, a defensive lineman. But this kid is, he was a little bit smaller, I think, when he committed last year. He's up to 300 pounds now as a defensive tackle, and he's such a beast. I mean, you can, if you watch some of his clips from last year, he's just completely dominant. He's not playing against the best competition up at Essexville Garber, which is a couple hours north there of like the Detroit area. But man, is he impressive, and including in some of the workout settings that you can watch kind of, clips of and just see what kind of physically impressive guy that this is. And this is one that I think he's, a guy to keep an eye on as you go through the 2022 cycle. We still have, 9 months or so until, the early signing day, or 8 or whatever it is. He's one to keep an eye on because he keeps notching major offers. Alabama, teams like that are calling him and wanting to see if maybe he wants to take a visit. And he has said on the record, too, that he's willing to take some visits here going down the stretch. Now, the thing that Michigan has going for them, I'd say the most, is that his brother, Ben, is on the team. He's a linebacker. He's also played fullback and has kind of been, a player that Michigan's used here and there and is kind of a team guy and, loves Michigan. So they have that going for him, them when it comes to Alex VanSumer. But I think as he gets on the radar more and more, Michigan kind of got him when he was a little off the radar. He was a legacy guy. I think he was a 3-star at one point. Now he's starting to kind of get noticed a little bit more. So he's one to watch. I would say that he's probably solid with Michigan and has certainly said so. But you never know when you take a visit somewhere else. But, he's somebody Michigan really wants to keep in the fold. And, when you look at defensive tackle specifically for Michigan, it's an area where they're kind of thin on the roster. I know he'd be a couple years down the road, but it'd be big to just continue getting some of those guys at that position, especially guys that are big and, good athletes like Alex VanSumer. So he's a special player for sure.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the game we all love each and every day with the best writers, broadcasters, bloggers across the nation. We got Clayton Sayfie on the line from Wolverine.com. Again, it's the Wolverine.com on Rivals. Check him out and the rest of the staff right there. Best discussion, debate, and analysis right here. That's our aim, goal, and mission every day. So please check us out as we break down the Michigan class of 6 as it stands for 2022 right now. So Jim Harbaugh brought in some new fresh blood to the coaching staff and got him right out on the recruiting trail to bring in some pretty impressive talent. So the staff has also stayed in the state of Michigan for Devontae Miles. We got out in Colorado, Connor Jones, and a tight end, Martin Klein, out of Georgia.
Yeah, so these all three have kind of unique, I'd say, situations as well. We can start with Devontae Miles, as you mentioned, first out of River Rouge, which is right near Detroit. And this is a 3-star kid. I think he's more of a high upside type of kid for Michigan, kind of a big body that could, maybe play the 3 technique or the defensive end. And again, that's kind of a position that they've been looking at and saying, we need bodies here to a certain extent. They weren't closing with some in 2021, until they did really, really late in the process. But, so they kind of need guys at these positions. He's more of an under the radar kid. I wouldn't say he's an elite talent, but certainly can play, either the defensive end or 3 technique defensive tackle spot, and right out of your backyard as well, which I think helps keeping some of those guys home and maybe away from a Michigan State or a Penn State who likes to recruit in Detroit, or even Kentucky, who's been coming up and getting some talents. Then we could talk about Connor Jones out of Colorado, an offensive lineman. And his situation's a little bit unique as well, in that he was recruited by Ed Warner, who's now the former offensive line coach for Michigan, replaced now by Sharon Moore, who was a tight ends coach, got the promotion to O-line coach and co-offensive coordinator. So it looks like, through that transition, now that Warner's down at Florida Atlantic after being let go, it looks like he's going to be a Michigan pledge, at least right now. He's had conversations with Sharon Moore and, kind of the new offensive staff when you look at some of the shakeups that they had. And, it looks like he's going to be in the fold. And I will say this, it was a little surprising that Ed Warner was out, considering I think he was probably looked at as the top assistant coach on Michigan's staff. Maybe recruiting was lacking a little bit, but he had a knack for finding guys all around the country, guys he liked, specifically for how he likes to coach offensive line and finding them. And it's interesting, that they're hanging on to Connor Jones through that. And, I'm not saying he's a bad player at all. I think he has, tremendous upside, and he's done some really good things. He's only a 3-star. But I think that's just an interesting storyline that they are going to keep him in the fold, at least for now. So when you look at this 2022 class overall for Michigan, and, we can go into Marlon Klein as well, who I almost just forgot about, because he's down in Georgia and he committed kind of surprisingly. When he committed, it was like, all right, this kid's going to commit in like 2 days. And, nobody's heard that much about him. He's from Europe. So he's kind of new to football. And that's where Sharon Moore comes in, who's now, like I said, the offensive line coach, was the tight ends coach. And he was listed at a receiver for some time, plays there in high school, but he's kind of a tight end, one of those athletic type downfield tight ends with good ball skills. Maybe needs to develop more as a blocker, but they have some good talent in this 2022 class. Some of the under the radar type guys, like we mentioned, Connor Jones, I think Marlon Klein for sure, because he came over from Europe. No one knew who he was until a year or two ago. And then you have an Alex VanSumer, who I think is going to be a star at the next level. And then you have these two kids in Cody Jones and Taylor Groves that are kind of on that level as well, where you talk to kids you talk to, people that have coached them and things like that, and they really, really like these kids and think they're going to be very, very good in college. So you got that mix, and there's some big targets on the board left in 2022, especially at defensive back that could join these guys. Will Johnson's a 5-star kid out of Grosse Pointe. His dad, Dion, played for Michigan, considering Ohio State, USC, Michigan, I'd say are the top 3 right now, and he's looking to commit fairly soon, probably in the spring or, early spring here. So a lot left in this 2022 class, and it could shape up to be a good one, especially with some of the guys they brought on this staff.
So between yourself and the other folks there at Rivals on the Michigan front, is there a good feel for Will Johnson?
Yeah. This recruitment's been interesting because Will Johnson's a kid who wants to be a leader in his class from everything we've heard. So he kind of wants to commit on the early side, like I said, maybe in the spring, and then lead his class. But, it's interesting when that's the case, but he hasn't chosen yet. So he doesn't know which class he's going to lead. Is he going to lead, be a leader in the Michigan 2022 class, Ohio State, USC? And I think if it was a month ago and he decided to pull the trigger, it probably would have been the Buckeyes. But he's a kid right out of Michigan's backyard, like I mentioned, a legacy recruit that grew up loving Michigan. And he wanted to give the new Michigan defensive staff a shot at recruiting him. So he kind of said that he pushed his decision back a little bit. And I think that's paid off when it comes to Michigan. They should really be appreciative, I think, of him for doing that and giving them a look, considering they really, really want him. And they've kind of gone all in on him. Jim Harbaugh, Maurice Linguist, Ron Bellamy, who's a new wide receivers coach and has been a longtime coach in the Detroit area. Tons of guys, basically the entire staff putting the full court press on him as it goes down. I think right now we feel pretty good about Michigan's chances at this point. But, I think that's a testament to the new staff coming in right away, making him a priority. I think he was getting texts right away from these guys before they were even announced on the staff. Right after the ink dried on the contract, you're texting Will Johnson because he's that important for this Michigan class in the future.
Yeah, there are only about 35 to 45 stars per class.
Yeah. Yep.
And when one's in your own backyard and he's a legacy guy and he's in the state of Michigan, again,
you have to get him. Yeah.
I saw a rundown of 5 stars, and this must have been in the last 5 to 10 years, something in the 10-year range. Even a state like Ohio, that's a top 7 to 8 football playing state in the country, only had about 10 or 11 5 stars in the last 10 years. I got to think Michigan is less than that, of course.
For sure.
So My goodness, yeah, he would be a huge get. Tremendous talent. Just to set up the metrics on Miles and Jones, they have yet to be rated by Rivals. Talking about the Georgia recruiting prowess as a football playing state at the high school level, 43rd rated player may not pop eyeballs out when certain people hear that, but when you understand the depth of talent in states like Florida, Georgia, and Georgia's kind of joined Texas and California on that year, that it's when you're 43rd ranked in the state of Georgia, he's the 21st rated tight end in the country. A good commit there for the state of Michigan.
Yeah. And on Marlon Klein specifically, he's kind of another off the radar kid, as I kind of mentioned before. His state title, like playoff bracket that he was in, is North Carolina. So they're kind of out in the middle of nowhere in Georgia as well. So when you look at Xavier Worthy, who's a top 100 kid now in the 2021 class, a wide receiver for, a signee for Michigan, he was a 3-star last summer out of Fresno because no one had gone and saw him in a while because he wasn't in that mainstream LA, type of area. So a lot of these kids, there are talented kids that kind of once they pop on the radar and someone goes and sees them and whatever and doesn't just watch the film, and you couple in the fact that he's new to football, I think that, some of these guys, you have to look at the specific situation with them. And he's one of those. And, I'm not saying stars don't matter either because, they certainly do.
Check out Clayton's work and the rest of the staff there at Rivals. You know the brand. It's thewolverine.com. And of course, if you enjoy the content right here, at least smash the like button. And if you enjoy it, then don't be selfish. Share the videos out there on social media as well. And Clayton, we will see you next time.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mark.